Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man. You already know what it is, man. So let's get right to it. Okay, so let's talk about this Joe Budden situation. Now, Joe Budden and his podcast have been a staple in the hip-hop community for a long time, it seems now. Several years of hard work, dedication, and pleasing the fans week to week with entertainment and insight on specific topics throughout the world, including those that are very popular in hip-hop and urban culture, right? I hate I use the word urban there, but let's continue. Now, Joe Budden's podcast consists of himself, Rory, and Mal. And, for the most part, the podcast has been a smash hit. Everybody tunes in week to week. It's been enjoyable. But, man, lately it's been a tumultuous relationship between the host and the co-host that's played out on social media, sort of like a drama, man. And it's been interesting to say the least. Now, I've been partial to this because I am a fan of the show in its entirety, and even when they switched the lineup, I was a fan of the show. But based on a lot of the reports out there, it looks like the show's never going to get back to its original core group, and things are going to change going on in the future. Now, before we kick it and get into the specifics, do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and man, let's get it. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the Joe Budden podcast, man. Now, Joe Budden's podcast is a staple in hip-hop media. He covers all the hot topics. Him, Rory, and Mal, man, they set the standard. I mean, they really put it out there and made people realize the potential there is in hip-hop media. And just being podcasters, like being on so many different platforms originally, and then going to Spotify and getting their deal. It showed how big the podcasting world really was and how important an impact this show was, man. Now, I know this seems like I'm riding jock, man, but I want to give folks they just dues before I get into this news story. Now, this news story that I'm talking about is a story that was released by none other than All Hip Hop. Now, All Hip Hop is a hip hop website and social media platform, and they stay pretty current on news stories, man. And they usually are spot on with their assessment of situations that happen within the hip hop, man. I was almost about to say sphere, but that gets overused. But the hip hop world, you know what I mean? Now, in this story, they start off by saying this. The headline says, "Did Joe Budden announce the end of the Joe Budden podcast with Rory and Mal?" Now, before I get into the story, there's some clips that are floating around on social media, and it is obviously Joe Budden, and it is obviously him going off on Rory and Mal about all of this drama that's been going on. Now, some of you might be wondering, what in the world am I talking about? Well, Joe Budden, Rory, and Mal haven't been seeing eye to eye lately, man. It seems like the show has suffered from it too. When I say suffered, I mean that the energy was off and that there was obviously some sort of rift between them. You know what I mean? That is not a slight or a diss in any way, but it just seemed like, they weren't bringing opposite opinions of Joe later on in the episodes, man. It was a whole bunch of agreeing, and there's nothing wrong with agreeing, but people do show up for a little bit of the back and forth and debate. And, they like to introduce new ideas or ways of looking at, topics that people are scared to discuss or might even, have opposing opinions about. It just makes for a good dialogue and a good conversation, and you take a lot more from it. But especially when in the earlier episodes, they used to bounce ideas off of each other and go at each other, in a funny, comical, almost loving way. You know what I mean? Now, recently, it's been a lot of drama, man. So it hasn't been much of that. And even in the return episode, let's get to the story. Now, the story says this. It said over the last several months, there's been a lot of internal drama involving the Joe Budden podcast. Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man, and I know you're enjoying this video, but make sure you go and you follow me on social media platforms like Instagram, and also go to my Twitter page and make sure you hit that follow button there so you can get the latest and greatest updates of when I'm dropping my videos. And man, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button so we can spread this video around, and we trying to get 2,000 likes, so run them likes up. All right. That played out in front of the public. Longtime co-hosts Rory Farrell and Jamal Mal Clay were absent from multiple episodes, which led fans to wonder if they were permanently off the pod. Now, during this whole time that they were off the pod, I'm going to stop right there. during this whole time they were off the podcast, right? There was a lot of rumors circulating. They were spotting. People were looking for Rory and Mal. There was a video of Rory in L.A. leaving some restaurant or something like that, or a coffee shop. Then there was like a lot of debate if they'd ever come back. And when Joe Budden added Ish and Ice, it started to make sense, man. It looked like, it was a good fit. It was a good fit. And they had a good chemistry. They had a legendary episode, during that time. I think it's still it gets suggested to me all the time. And this guy already got millions of views. So I'm thinking he was going to move on. But then he brought Rory and Mal back, and they had 2 episodes that were kind of, I don't know, man. It was awkward to say the least. Like, you could tell Mal was still a little upset about something, and you could see Rory was still trying to get past something. The energy was off, especially when you look at older episodes, especially their funnier episodes. It just, something was off. So when Joe Budden replaced Rory and Mal with Ice and Ish, we had already almost moved on as fans, I'm starting to think, because a lot of people had that opinion. So when he brought him back, it was like, it was good. Don't get me wrong. And it was good to see them. And it was trending. It went viral that they were back together. But it seems like, man, they ran into some more issues, man. Now, the story continues to say that Joe Budden, Mal, and Rory were back again for 2 episodes, and that the podcast went another week-long hiatus. Instead of a new episode being released this week as expected, Budden took to Twitter to hint that the show may be coming to an end. And they have in quotes where he said, "Sorry, not sorry," tweeted Joe Budden on the afternoon of May 11th. So that was yesterday. The next morning, he returned to the social media platform to post, "Hell of a run, God bless." As the fans of the Joe Budden podcast began reacting to the New Jersey native's tweets, the show's founder seemed somewhat apathetic to the criticism he was receiving. A Twitter user slammed Budden for allegedly going against everything he preached about. The 40-year-old former Slaughterhouse member commented back, "I'm phony." One person suggested Budden needed to get help because he cannot keep destroying everything he builds. Budden replied, "Yes, I can." And I love that. Okay, stop right there. I've heard Joe Budden's side of this, right? I haven't heard Rory and Mal's side of it, except for the 2 episodes where they came back. But, man, it seems like, man, Joe Budden is in the right about a lot of these things. And I know. I've gone on different videos and talked about this. Joe Budden's one of those cats that I usually, I don't go too hard on social media. There's only 3 people in hip-hop media I'm like with that. But, man, I don't know, man. It seems like him, Mal, and Rory, maybe they just met at a point where they just can't return. And it seems like for the best of them, you would think that Rory and Mal would have did like some other people have suggested, man. Had their own thing and just rocked out and made sure that they were secure in that. But, I'm not counting their pockets. They're probably doing way better than I'm doing. But it's all interesting to say the least. And that's why Joe Budden and them are trending right now. It's because people are like, wow, they finally just called it quits. After all that talk, after the makeup to breakup type show, and then, it seems like they couldn't meet or find their resolution in this situation. Now, if you listen to those clips on social media, I'd post them, but I don't know who owns that material, and I ain't about doing that. But basically, in the clips that are on social media that are circling around, you hear Joe Budden addressing some of the hottest topics when it comes to Rory and Mal. One of those specifically being his relationship with none other than DJ Academics, another super powerhouse in the hip-hop media game. And, him just talking about the fact that, he didn't like how things went down between them and why they couldn't squash it. And he related it to a past episode. And I remember that episode where he talked about the scene from Snowfall, where he's like, man, I'm not about to destroy everything we built just because you don't like how somebody talks. You know what I mean? And just talking about the pettiness, putting the pettiness to the side and working. And it seems like they never got over that hump. And, man, they sacrificed a whole relationship for that, allegedly. Now, to be real, I'm interested in seeing where this goes from here on out. And I'm pretty sure we're going to hear a lot about this by the end of the day, because it looks like a lot of people have some shows where this is like the main topic that's coming up. So I'm interested in seeing what they say and their take about the situation. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Joe Budden is just, breaking up the show because it's just what he does? Or do you feel that this was a smart strategic move because, they might have just met or gotten to a situation that they can't come back from? Now, with that, this has been your boy Big Man. Do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure you hit that notification bell so that way you get a notification every time I drop this hot content. And we out of here. Peace.